Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big, weird, wild world out there, folks, and here we stand. Al pie del cañón, ready for anything. I'm Rob, and you're listening to...
The ProBoh Show!
That's right, boys and girls. Welcome to the one and only ProBoh Show. And oh my God, do I have a show lined up for you today. Today is another podcast exclusive just for you angelic beings who download the podcast daily. More and more of you every day. So a big thanks for those of you making an effort to share and rate the podcast wherever you find it. You guys rock the block. In the second half of today's show, we're going to ask 100 humans to name an odor so distinct, you know right away what it is. To name an odor, un olor. Nombra un olor tan característico que sabrás enseguida de qué se trata. Or de qué será, I guess. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I've only been in Spain 20 years. Do me a favor. And then in today's Complete the News... It's an embarrassment of riches with the stupidity that's going on in the world. Both today's Complete the News are equally as hilarious. I think we'll do something that is about to happen in a Texas church. And if we have time, we'll look at a man who was sentenced to 85 years in prison. We'll look at those two things. But really, the headliner of today's show, friends, is today's unpopular opinion. I posted it this morning. You haven't had as much time to vote as you normally would. And oh my God, did I receive some hate online. This time from the left end of the political spectrum, because as you know, I love to piss everyone off equally. Today's unpopular opinion is toxic masculinity does not exist. Uh-oh. Has Rob been watching too many nasty podcast videos? No. I have a rationale. We'll get to it. So toxic masculinity does not exist. That's the topic up for discussion, for debate in this first half of the show. But first of all, guys, I'm here. You're here. Let's see what's going on in the world. Lots of cool news. By the way, a big hello to the people joining me live in the chat. Min joining us from the Netherlands. Crystal joining us from the United States. We've got The Bridge in chat. We've got Vero in chat. You guys are killing it. Close the door. We've already got the quality people in the chat. Okay, so interesting news, if true. I've tried to look for corroborating articles, and all the publications stating this, I wouldn't consider them 100% reputable. But I did find two separate publications saying this, so we're going to cover it, and if it ends up being untrue, apologies. Okay, you guys know we cover AI, artificial intelligence, a lot on the show. Well, apparently, Google's Gemini AI surpasses Chat GPT-4, which is the paid version of Chat GPT by OpenAI. 5-fold. It's 5 times better than Chat GPT-4. This coming from dailysaba.com. Semi-Analysis, a semiconductor research firm, has reported that Google's forthcoming generative AI tool, Gemini, is currently 5 times more powerful than the leading Chat GPT-4 models. By the end of 2024, this tool might be up to 20 times more potent than Chat GPT. While OpenAI had an early lead in AI tools, Google has now intensified its efforts. Despite its capabilities, there's speculation that Google might not release the Gemini model to the public due to the potential impacts on its business model. Interesting. Are Google kind of in the business of putting themselves out of business? It's an interesting question. I'll be honest with you, since I started using ChatGPT, I haven't been using Google as much. I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't. Or Bing. I tell you what, Edge for me. This is a Chrome household. We use Chrome here. Until Bing introduced Bing Chat to Microsoft Edge, and now Edge is an absolutely phenomenal browser. And that's just my opinion, guys. Opinions are, as you know, like buttholes. Everybody has one. They all stink, even mine. But if you're ever looking to if you ever get sick of Chrome, give Edge a go. The incorporation of AI does make it something quite special. So here we go. So AI is changing the face of internet search. Google have apparently developed this Gemini, which is currently 5 times better than the thing that is putting them out of business. Does that not seem a little ridiculous? Does that not seem a little weird? Interesting. So yeah, and interesting that they might not release it to the public, in which case begs the question, right, friends? What are they doing with it? If they're not going to release this to the public, what the hell are they going to do with it? It's an interesting question, a valid question. So let's go back to that news story. The rapid advancement of large language models and generative AI has raised concerns about their implications, leading to regulatory moves in countries like China and planned discussions in the US and UK. I hate to say this about our governments, but way too late, friends. The genie is out of the bottle. This thing needed regulating, I don't know, like, you can't even really say a year ago, because a year ago we weren't even talking, it wasn't even really on our radar, artificial intelligence. I mean, but they are a good couple of months too late, which is light years in terms of how fast the technology is moving. Saving it for a rainy day, maybe, says the bridge. Could be. I mean, it doesn't really make much sense to me why they would develop such a powerful tool and then keep it to themselves. I mean, what are they going to be doing with it? You know? Didn't Google recently remove "Don't be evil" from their corporate motto? Min says, I've never used a Chat GPT or whatever in place of Google, though, to be fair. I would highly recommend it, Min, because it is transformative. If it's to replace internet search, I would say Bing Chat, which is basically just a version of Chat GPT. Because Bing Chat, you can actually use it to search the web and get further insights into articles, find out where things are linked and where there are correlations. I mean, I certainly use it when preparing the show, you know, to help me research articles and news. And Chat GPT as a tool for summarizing and for, you know, better understanding more complex issues, rather than spending hours trying to find a layman's article on Google. Cut and paste it into Chat GPT and just say, you know, explain this like I'm 5. And there you go. There you go, my friends. Does it link its sources? There are plugins that will make Chat GPT do that. It doesn't natively do that, but there are plugins, yes. Ravdos is here joining us from the States. How are you doing, Ravdos? My God. The gang's all here, my friends. So there you go. Google's Gemini AI surpassing Chat GPT 5-fold. Interesting. Right, next up. I'm going to read half of the headline, and I want your honest reaction, chat. A teen's death leads to an outpouring of concern. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wow, this is a tragedy. A teenager has died. Yeah. I'll continue reading the headline. Over the spicy chip social media challenge. What? Yeah. So more kids are dying because of social media challenges. I don't care how kind of desensitized you are to this kind of news. You've got kind of thing. I mean, look, I hate to say the word Darwin, but come on, what is going on? This one's actually quite tragic because it doesn't appear on the surface that it's that it would be something that could actually kind of cause physical harm. It's called the One Chip Challenge, right? The challenge calls for its participants to eat the one chip, which I believe is just a big tortilla chip, and then see how long they can go without consuming other food and water. That is in essence the One Chip Challenge. The chip is incredibly spicy, apparently, and this teen sadly passed away because of this challenge. At least, look, wasn't it like a year ago kids were eating Tide Pods, like the squishy laundry detergent? At least that, as sad as this news is, at least kids are eating edible substances now. So, congratulations, kids. Well done, generation, whatever the hell your name is. That's a good point, actually. What are we going to call the generation after Generation Z? I mean, I don't make those decisions. Generation Alpha. I don't know. So here we go. Let's get into this news coming to us from the Associated Press. The death of a Massachusetts teenager, Harris Woolabar, after consuming an extremely spicy tortilla chip has sparked widespread concern about the associated social media challenge. In response to the incident, Texas-based company Paqui, which produces the One Chip Challenge chip, has requested retailers to cease sales of the product. By Friday, the spicy chip had been removed from both physical store shelves and online shopping platforms, while the state medical examiner's office is still investigating the cause of Woolabar's death. A vigil was held in his honor in Worcester. Is this did this happen in England? I don't mean to say that with any surprise, Americans. I'm sorry, that probably sounded a lot worse than I meant it to. But yeah, I mean, this is a tragedy, isn't it? Whenever a kid dies so senselessly, I mean, there were deaths and poisonings because of the Tide Pod challenge, right? But this is actually a food substance. Here's a question: if their tortilla chip is so dangerous, why is this food company making it in the first place? I mean, doesn't that like strike alarm bells to anyone else other than me? Let's take a deep dive into the chat, see what people are saying. Doing good, great to see you by the light of day. Thank you, Ravdos. Yeah, it's good to be here. We've done 2 days of After Dark shows. By the way, if you're a regular listener, this show will come out on the podcast on Thursday, but we recorded it on Tuesday evening live. Hi, Rod, just saw you were on. How you doing? Gandalf, welcome back. Let's see, Vero, the gang is here, Rob. Close the doors. That's it. Nobody else gets in. We have the quality here. Gandalf, Ravdos, Min, Vero, Crystal, Bridge. Come on. After dark equals pajamas, says the Bridge. And Gandalf asks, am I wearing sexy PJs? To wear sexy PJs, I'd actually have to be wearing something. Do you know what I'm saying, guys? For all you know. So there we go, another weird and wacky social media challenge. You just got to ask yourself, like, what is the net benefit of social media platforms these days? I mean, Facebook is essentially a birthday reminder app now, isn't it? I mean, does anybody use Facebook anymore to do anything other than be stuck in a treadmill, a constant kind of hamster wheel of trash news stories and falsification? Is there any need for it? You know, the platform X, Elon Musk's Twitter, is just become a bit of a cesspit. Instagram is just a pit of egocentrism and narcissism. Look at me. Oh, dude, what is the net benefit of social media anymore? Can we not replace social media with just WhatsApp, which is in a certain extent a social media platform itself, given that you can put together groups of people now? I don't know how I feel about this. Anyway, final piece of news for this part of the show. Luxury supersonic jet will fly from London to New York in 3 hours. Okay, so if you're listening to these shows sequentially, 2 days ago, we spoke about how France was saying no more €10 flights. We can't justify that waste of fuel. Essentially putting in danger the cheap flights we have across Europe, which for our American friends would be like interstate travel. We tend to be able to pick up aeroplanes relatively cheaply. And France has kind of spoken against that, saying in this ecological climate, we can't justify that. And here is a luxury supersonic jet that will fly from London to New York in 3 hours, and no one bats an eyelid. Why not ban that and keep the cheap flights? Why not ban private jets? Keep cheap flights for the poorest people. How's about that? I don't know. Just an idea. Right, comrades? Right? So here we go. Let's dig into this news. A US-based aerospace firm, Spike, has begun accepting reservations for its $100 million. For its 100, that's more money than we all collectively will see in a lifetime. For its $100 million supersonic business jet. A significant move given the rarity of such aircraft reservations, especially for supersonic models. The dream of supersonic flight, which saw its last iconic representation with the Concorde in 2003, has faced challenges with companies like Aerion, Folding, and Boom Supersonic encountering obstacles. Spike's announcement rekindles hopes for the resurgence of supersonic flight. Imagine how expensive that is. I mean, imagine how much you're going to be paying for a supersonic jet. I remember the furor and the buzz of conversation around Concorde. But I remember even then, when this news came out, my mum saying how restrictive the price was, you know? And it just sad to me. No, but get me wrong, I don't believe we should be wasting the world's resources, but it grinds my gears that a day after, in real time, not for our podcast listeners, a day after I reported the fact that France wants to have a minimum fare for airline travel, you know, because of ecology, just basically punishing the poorest in society. You know, there's this luxury jet company, and I bet no one's batting an eyelid. I'll tell you who is batting an eyelid, folks. We are.
That gets the ProBoh stamp of approval.
We're batting an eyelid. All right, guys. Well, look, that's the news for this part of the show. Why don't we move on to today's unpopular opinion?
Unpopular opinion.
Oh my God, friends. Oh my God. Today's brain fart. Today's pedocerebral. Today's pedomental. Today's rayada. Today's brain fart has caused me to receive quite a little bit of hate. Usually, you know, one side of the political spectrum is usually pissed off of me. Today, it's the political left. A couple of days ago, it was the political right. So let's see if I can navigate the murky waters of this subject without being called a bigot anymore. Today's unpopular opinion is there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Woo! It's it's a hot one, guys. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. I don't even know how you'd say that in Spanish. Masculinidad tóxica, would you say? La masculinidad tóxica no existe. Is that a good translation? You tell me. Let's see what people are saying just before we get into this in the chat. The ProBoh Show is the place to be, says the bridge. Oh.
¿Será posible? Vaya nivelazo.
Vaya nivelazo. Ravdos, no one hates the Rob. Oh, you'd be surprised. I get some messages. I lost a few followers on Instagram today for posting this poll. So Gandalf kind of is hitting in the chat, is hitting the nail on the head for this argument for me. Before I get into it, before I really deep dive this subject, I want you to know that in no way, shape, or form am I saying that toxic behavior doesn't exist. There is toxic behavior. Of course there is. All right. But toxic masculinity, I think doesn't exist. Whew. Let's get into it. So I thoroughly tortured the elves this morning, as I tend to, and they spat out through broken teeth some pro and con answers. So here we go. Agreeing with the statement, there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. Here we go. Some argue that the term toxic masculinity is a broad generalization that unfairly paints all masculine traits or behaviors with a negative brush, leading to misconceptions about what it means to be a man. Critics might assert that the term is rooted in specific cultural biases that may not apply universally. What's perceived as toxic in one culture might be viewed as normal masculine behavior in another. Some believe that focusing on toxic masculinity may inadvertently perpetuate gender divides and misunderstandings rather than fostering unity and mutual respect.
That gets the ProBoh stamp of approval.
Yeah. Am I right? And then the final in the pro column is this. The argument can be made that societal issues often attributed to toxic masculinity might be more accurately ascribed to other causes, such as societal structures, upbringing, or individual choices, rather than innate male traits. We're going to get into this in some more detail in a second. Let's go for the arguments against, the con arguments, saying no, there is definitely such a thing as toxic masculinity. Let's go. All right, here we go. Advocates argue that toxic masculinity doesn't decry all masculine traits, but specifically refers to harmful behaviors and expectations, such as suppressing emotions, demonstrating aggression, or demeaning perceived weaker individuals, which are encouraged in some men by societal norms. Yeah, I'm going to get into this in a second. Okay, let's continue. Various studies have shown that rigid gender norms and expectations can be harmful to both men and women. For men, they can lead to increased rates of violence, mental health issues, and reduced emotional well-being. The portrayal of men in the media often perpetuates specific macho stereotypes, suggesting that men should be emotionally stoic, aggressive, or dominant. Recognizing these potentially harmful stereotypes can be seen as an acknowledgement of toxic masculinity. I'm sorry, emotional stoic. Oh, come on. All right, let's continue. Is this? I mean, what a lot of people call emotional stoicism, I might call just being in control of one's emotions, but whatever. Let's continue. I can see a lot of people getting pissed off, and you know what? I love it. And finally, okay, let's continue. Finally, by addressing and recognizing toxic masculinity, society can work towards more positive and holistic male identities that allow for vulnerability and emotional expression and equality. Again, guys, this is a podcast exclusive. So we're going to deep dive this and we're going to talk about this as much as we need to. Okay. Let me get into the chat. Crystal said, we had a sonic boom here a few days ago. It was terrifying. Yeah. I wonder, a supersonic jet must be. Okay, let's continue. So Gandalf says, I agree, there is just toxic people. Vero also agrees. She says, toxicity is not a question of sexes, but of personality. You guys, you are giving me faith in humanity right now. Yeah, as Gandalf goes on to say, it can be masculine or feminine. You know, when I was a kid, we had a word that replaced toxic masculinity. It was asshole or dickhead. You know, and the world is full of them. And you don't have to be male or female. And can I also add that if you ascribe certain behaviors as masculine or feminine, for example, what are typical masculine kind of personality traits? I don't know, would you say assertiveness, competitiveness, independence? If those are typically masculine, well, let me just say, you have a very dim view of women. Because I have met some incredibly assertive, competitive, and independent women in my life. Is aggressiveness solely a male thing? I don't think so. I've met aggressive people from all across the gender spectrum. Stubbornness, risk-taking, emotional restraint. If those are all masculine traits, then you have a very dim view of the opposite sex. That's all I can say. I've met women who are assertive, who take risks, who show an incredible amount of emotional restraint. I don't think emotional stoicism is a male thing. Now, we're not talking about maybe 40, 50 years ago. I'm talking about right now, friends. Are we not trying to break down the differences between the sexes? Is labeling toxic behavior as something masculine not just building further walls between us? Don't dickheads, assholes exist in both genders? Why toxic masculinity? When was the last time someone got called toxic? When did you read in the media about toxic femininity? Never. Of course not. Of course you wouldn't, because it doesn't exist. And neither does toxic masculinity. It's just a label given to some traits of people we would at one point have called a wanker. Sorry, I wanted to get this out in the second half of the show, so I'm sorry about that. Let's see what people are saying in the chat here. Isn't toxic masculinity just a new way of saying male chauvinism? I mean, it encompasses a lot. It encompasses the idea of being a man, being tough, those kind of societal pressures put onto men to have them act in a more aggressive way. Like aggressiveness can be seen as toxic masculinity. Picking on the weak can be seen as a toxic masculinity. But if a man does it, right? But aren't those two traits that cross genders? Do aggressive women not exist? Do women who prey on the weak not exist? Of course they do. They're assholes. Just like men behaving the same way are assholes. I mean, these negative traits just exist, full stop. Okay, let me again turn to the chat, see what they're saying. The term toxic masculinity came from a study of psychopaths continually and directly seeking violent altercations in prison. Then people saw the term and used it to bash men with. Gandalf continues by saying, changing the meaning to match male behaviors they don't like. The bridge says, you would call it being a Brit. Yeah, emotional stoicism is just being British. And let me be quite clear here. British women can be emotionally stoic as well. It was yonks since I last heard the word wanker. You're welcome. Let's see. Emily says, hi friends, how you doing, friends? So yeah, there we go. I did get more messages online with regards to this. Let me read a few of them now. Luna says, I've seen countless men struggle with societal expectations of being a man and not showing vulnerability. This is a direct result of toxic masculinity. Men, like everyone else, need safe places to process and express their feelings. Let me tell you something, Luna. I express my feelings just fine. And I show my vulnerability to my male friends just fine. Okay? In fact, most men, when they talk to each other one-on-one, do that to a degree, what seems to be a surprising degree. If we're emotionally stoic, what you might consider as bottled up, a lot of us would just consider being in control, being at the driver's wheel of our emotions, right? I mean, I certainly don't have any problem communicating with other men or women about my feelings. Maybe I'm more inclined to process them first internally before vocalizing them. Is that toxic masculinity? Is violence toxic masculinity? I mean, I would just call it violence. Don't we have a word for that? Does it have to be gendered? Are we not trying, my friends, to break down these gender stereotypes, these walls, when the same people who are supposed to be attempting that dissolution of the divide are labeling toxic behaviors as masculine? I have a problem with that, friends. I have a problem with it. There is toxic masculinity and femininity, says Emily. Emily, what we were saying at the earlier part of the show is toxicity exists. We had a label for such people who behaved in toxic behaviors. Dickheads, assholes, however you want to put it. Labeling things by gender, saying these are behaviors that women do that are unhealthy, and these are behaviors that men do that are unhealthy. No, you know what? There is no problem between the genders. There are problems with people. Okay? Are we not working towards more inclusivity? Phrases like toxic masculinity I find incredibly exclusive. And it doesn't exist because all the behaviors outlined can be directly transposed onto women. If you meet a woman that behaves in such a way, I'm not saying all women are aggressive and emotionally stoic, by all means. Maybe as a percentage there are more emotionally stoic or aggressive men, maybe, but it's a society problem. And these labels matter. These labels really matter. Crystal says toxic gender neutrality. Let's see. I think that toxic masculinity also has to do with misogyny. Yeah, I mean, look, there is a certain aspect of that. But again, we had a name for that. Asshole. We didn't need to hang a gender label on it, you know, to make just normal guys, which is the vast majority of us. No, we're not all Andrew Tate or Donald Trump or whatever. The vast majority of us are just normal guys going through our day-to-day, and we don't really need that label hanging over our heads, so we question every single action that we make. I think the reason toxic masculinity being a media term came out of the rise and popularity of those Andrew Tates who influence over other men. Okay, and we're going to leave it with that final thought there by Ravdos. Is it just a few people? Is that the reason it arose? Because of these Andrew Tate-like individuals? Did it arise through the prominence of the feminist movement? Did it arise because toxic masculinity is really an issue? We'll dig a little deeper in the next half of the show, guys, and I'll give you some of my experiences with this. I'm probably more of my more balanced opinion. I've been quite heavy-handed in one direction in the next part of the show. All right, my friends? Guys, a lot of things you could have been doing this evening. Instead of doing those things, you took the time to spend some time with me, and it means the absolute world. I'll see you in a few minutes. Hey, guys, if you'd like to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/professional bohemian. There you'll find VODs of the episodes as they are recorded live, blogs, vlogs, and behind-the-scenes content. If you'd like to watch the show live, you can do so on twitch.tv/professional bohemian, and you can participate in the polls we use in the show on Instagram @professional bohemian or Twitter @ProBoh, ProBoh. Okay, on with the show.
The ProBoh Show!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this, the ProBoh Show. How are you doing out there, folks? Wow, what fascinating first half. Brilliant bit of debate going on in the chat. Okay, what did you miss if you just tuned in? We spoke about Google's Gemini AI, which is apparently 5 times better right now in its current state, 5 times better than Chat GPT-4. Chat GPT-4 being the paid version of ChatGPT, the version of ChatGPT which is better trained than the 3.5, which is free. So incredibly impressive, if true. Then we looked at this tragic death of a teenager by eating a spicy tortilla chip. God, that shit. I know it sounds like it should be in complete the news, but this is a social media challenge, the one chip challenge, This potato chip, apparently so toxic, killed a kid. I mean, well, look, it's under investigation right now. If you're a young person listening to the show, don't do social media challenges, man. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And then finally, we looked at the luxury supersonic jet that will fly from New York to London in 3 hours. For those of you old enough to remember Concorde, supersonic jet flight has been something that we've really struggled to get off the ground and make a service that we can rely on. But hey, this company, this American company by the name of Spike, think they can make it happen with their $100 million supersonic business jet. And then what else? Well, then, friends, we got into one of the most controversial, unpopular opinions we've done on the show. And that's what these, by the way, if you're a podcast listener, we recorded this in the evening of Tuesday. You're listening to this on Thursday. The good point about doing these in the evening and them not being on the radio, them being podcast exclusives, is that we can really take issues that probably aren't suitable for the radio and really hash them out here. So thank you for being part of that, all of you that are joining me in the show live right now. Okay. So, I read one comment. I'm going to read a few more that I got from Instagram. This is from Mike. I'm not saying that everything's perfect, but calling it toxic masculinity feels a bit extreme. In my world, men just act like men. Sometimes we're tough, sometimes we're gentle. Isn't it just about individual choices? Yeah, I would say to a certain degree it is. Thanks for that, Mike. There are a few more, but I do want to pay some attention to the comments I've got in the chat. Emily says, right, but as women, we don't know who is going to be a good person or a misogynistic asshole. But Emily, my response to that would be, and we men don't understand. We don't know if we're going to meet a woman who's nice or if she's going to, be an asshole. I mean, assholery exists across the gender spectrum. It's not exclusively a male-owned thing. Do you know what I mean? She continues. She says, so we have to stay guarded and assume everyone is, while hopefully not. What happened to innocent before proven guilty? Why not approach every situation with a level of neutrality and then make your decision based on evidence rather than just assume? That's what I would say. Emily says, I think giving us a title and cues helps us to know what to watch for. Really? I mean, how did people survive the eons that existed before we started using the word or the label toxic masculinity? Is it doing wonders for humanity? I mean, I don't think so. In Western cultures, in Western countries, the birth rate is dropping at an alarming rate. Hitting a lot of Western countries, it will hit some real worker deficits. I'm not saying toxic masculinity, the phrase toxic masculinity is responsible for that. But there is certainly some cultural shifts that are happening. I mean, look, for a start, there are too many humans. I'm not against the whole. I'm not against our extinction at all. But, I just don't think the labeling toxic behavior, specifically masculine in this way, helps at all. I just don't think it does. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think using the phrase toxic masculinity is a little sexist. Oh, what? I'm sorry, I just do. I do. I would never say, that's toxic femininity. This feminine behavior of yours is toxic. I wouldn't even know how to categorize toxic femininity. And I think the nebulous kind of hard to categorize nature of toxic masculinity, is it misogyny? Is it violence? Is it emotional stoicism? Is it aggression? I think the reason it's so nebulous is because specifically that. You can't categorize toxic behavior under a gender stereotype. To speak in the liberal terms that the people who really gave me a bashing today on social media would understand. Let's see. Gandalf says, masculine traits are toxic the same way I don't think masculine traits are toxic the same way I don't think feminine traits are toxic. Being an asshole is toxic, whether it's a Karen or a dickhead at the gym. Exactly. Are Karens, the word Karen that we've created to signify a particular kind of woman, I want to speak to your manager, which I kind of find an offensive kind of way to describe people as well. You very rarely hear me joking about the term Karen. I don't think that woman is toxically female. I just think she's toxic. Just like when I see a man bullying another man, I don't think that's toxic masculinity. I just think that's toxic behavior. And all we do by categorizing things is demonize certain behaviors, certain genders. Let's stop doing that. Let's identify toxic behavior as toxic. How's about that? Okay, let's continue. I have to go make... Oh, no worries, Emily. Thanks for dropping by. Mama Boy's here. She says, I agree, son. A woman can be toxic too. Toxic behavior can be in any gender. Oh.
¿Será posible? Vaya nivelazo.
Totally. You also have feminine toxicity. We just don't call them that. We call them things like objectifying, misogyny, etc. In a woman, it's labeled as hormonal, says Momabo. Min, it's just a label to make us more aware of how certain gender roles and expectations tied to sex or gender can be bad for us. Tied to sex can be bad for us. Ravdos says the problem here is that there are no populist female figures preaching misogyny to impressionable women. Yeah. I mean, there probably are, and I hate to say it, I'm going to get so much hate, but in the feminist space, there probably are. Okay? I don't think it's so prevalent as it is in terms of masculinity. I mean, we can point to people like Andrew Tate very simply. We can't point to anyone in the feminist space, or at least I can't. So maybe Ravdos is completely right there. I mean, I don't think, and this is not me calling out feminism, right? I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't label myself ever as a feminist. I would say I believe in equality between the genders, okay? Real equality, that we're treated equal. And I believe in that with my whole heart. I don't think that's feminism. I don't think, I think we need a term to refer to equality between the genders, between the sexes, between races, between countries, between people. I think we need equality all over the spectrum. I wouldn't label it in sex terms as feminism, fighting for equality. I think that's a fight we all have to be involved in together. And in that fight, I think phrases or terms like toxic masculinity, I don't think those help. My observation. Let's see. But Ravdos, a really insightful point there. The problem is there is no populist female figures preaching misogyny to impressionable women. True story.
That gets the ProBoh stamp of approval.
There probably are out there somewhere in the feminist space. And again, not decrying feminism at all. But there probably are. Just like in the positive male role model space exists Andrew Tate. Somewhat of a troll and a bad person, Let's see. There's definitely crazy feminists as well, says Min. Con says, I would call that liberal feminism, no? Says Friday Con. The Bridge says, how about label for normality if we ever get there? True story. I mean, one thing I think we can all agree on, right? We agree that there should be equality of outcome among in the sexes. That we should be equal, seen as equal, have the same rights between the sexes, and we can agree that we believe that among in terms of race, skin color, religion, that we should all be treated the same. We should all have the same opportunities. How do labels like toxic masculinity help? I don't think they do. I don't think they do, friends. But that is just one opinion, my opinion. As Grandpa Bo used to say, opinions are like buttholes. Everyone has one, they all stink, even mine. What I want to know is your opinion. First of all, I'm going to tell you what they said on Instagram. So I posted this morning. I said, toxic masculinity doesn't exist. On Instagram, they said 70% false. Yeah. But as I always say, the real decision makers, the enlightened people out there, they tune in live and they get the final say. So what did they say? What did the listeners say? All right. So again, right before the break, I made the statement, toxic masculinity doesn't exist. You guys said 68% true. I thoroughly believe from the deepest pit of my soul that there are inalienable differences between men and women. I think there are. We are biologically different, folks. I hate to break that to you, but we are. But one place where we don't differ is the fact that both men and both women can display toxic behavior. It's not a gender issue. You know, it's a human issue. It's not a sex issue, sorry. It's a human issue. It's a human issue because everyone has the ability to act like a dickhead or an asshole. And look, I'm not even counting myself out of this. I consider myself a relatively enlightened human being. Am I capable of being an asshole or a dickhead? Of course I am. In those moments where, you know, I'm so wrapped up in what I'm doing that, you know, I indulge in a little narcissism or, you know, I'm grumpy. Of course, we can all be assholes. We can all be a little toxic at times. And however that comes out, it comes out. I don't think it's specific to your sex, my friends. I don't think it's specific to your sex. I think it's just a human issue. So yeah, maybe in a net percentage, there are more aggressive men than women. Maybe. I don't have those facts and figures, right? But all I do know is saying that aggressive behavior performed by a man is toxic masculinity. However, if you meet an aggressive woman, that's just, you know, that's just a woman being aggressive. Well, fine. But does that really help narrow the gap between the sexes? Does that help bring us together, or does that push us further apart? I would argue it pushes us further apart. I think the label is miscategorized. I think it's a label that has been placed upon certain behaviors that really doesn't move towards the net benefit of society in any particular way. Let's see. The bridge here says, so glad to hear you say that. We're different. Of course we are. But capable of the same crap. Of course. Exactly. Min says, I missed the vote. I think you can argue the label is useless, but itself is difficult to ignore. I think most people will agree that men aren't expected to show emotions, at least at the same extent as women. You might disagree with the same toxic masculinity, with the name toxic masculinity, but it's a negative expectation tied to sex or gender. I don't see how it can be said that it doesn't exist. Well, okay. My male role model was my grandfather. He was a generation behind, I guess, the real male role model most people my age had. Okay, so I never really sat down, met face to face my father, but in many respects, that was my grandfather, and he was certainly quite a stoic, occasionally serious, tough man. I never, not once, saw him demonstrate toxic behavior. Let me say that for you again. My grandfather, a Polish immigrant to the UK, he was a tough, stoic, occasionally serious man. Never saw him be toxic. I think toxic is a way we describe any normal behavior taken to an extreme. And we can all indulge in toxic behavior, friends, all of us. Does labeling it as a specifically masculine trait, does that help? Or are we just mislabeling behavior that can be carried out by either gender, maybe disproportionately by one rather than the other? But it's certainly not specifically a masculine trait, aggression, emotional stoicism, things like that. Min says, but toxic masculinity is about expectation put on us by society that affects us negatively. I've heard toxic masculinity, Min, described as male aggression. Not just the idea that we should be emotionally stoic. I mean, this is the thing with toxic masculinity. While researching for this particular episode, you will be surprised by the gambit of what are considered male traits that can fall inside the broad outline of what toxic masculinity can be. Aggressiveness could also be called assertiveness. You've never seen an assertive woman, you know. There's certainly quite a lot of aggression in assertive behavior, right? Competitiveness, you know, emotional restraint, stubbornness. Are these toxic these masculine traits? Because if you think these are masculine traits, well, let me tell you something, friends. You have a very dim view of women in society. Because a lot of the women I know are some of the most assertive, competitive, independent women I know, and you know. Women are capable of showing emotional restraint too. And why the hell not? I don't think labels like toxic masculinity help. They certainly don't help us bring together. They feels like one of those phrases that are almost tailor-made to keep us further apart. And that, my friends, is where I'll leave it for today. You guys said it. True, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We can't argue, and I'm not going to deny the fact that toxic behavior exists. It does, but I certainly don't think it's. I don't think it's an issue of sex or gender. Is every okay? Would you maybe say that a preoccupation over your looks might be a typically female trait? You know, if you look on Instagram, you know, you see probably a lot more selfies posted by women than you would by men. Would that be an accurate statement in your mind? Is narcissism toxic femininity? I wouldn't say so, because I know many narcissistic men. When the tables get flipped over, you start to see this from a different perspective. Narcissism, aggressiveness, emotional restraint or stoicism. I think these are human problems. I don't think they're problems of sex. All right, guys. Well, on that note, we're going to move on to today's 100 Humans. Woo! That was a hot one today, my friends. That was a hot one. All right, let's see. Gandalf, having a penis is toxic masculinity. Otherwise, you're just an asshole. Yeah, I mean, look, we used to have a name. Years ago, we used to have a name for people who behaved aggressively or narcissistically or, overly assertive or tough. We used to have a name for those people, assholes. We didn't feel the need to specifically say it's a masculine trait. Narcissism isn't, but the expectation put on makeup could be toxic femininity. If you extend it to behavior, I definitely like the label way less. Exactly. I mean, it does it in its very nature. Extend to behavior. Anyway, guys, a fascinating discussion. And guys, don't let my opinion discolor the way you're feeling about this issue. Again, these are just opinions that I'm expressing. Ravdos said, and I'm going to let him close that little segment, people were swayed by the host, and it could be Ravdos. But I honestly do feel that. I feel like, if as a man you felt a certain weight upon you to express your masculinity in a certain way, whether that was restraining your feelings or being overly aggressive, then I do in fact pity that. But it's a human issue. It's toxic humanity, if you like. Toxic masculinity, I think, is any of these phrases. I wouldn't call a woman who was being narcissistic toxically feminine. I find that amazing, incredibly disrespectful. As I do when I see men fight, just think that's asshole behavior, that toxic behavior. I don't think it's particularly toxic male behavior. Anyway, so let's continue on with today's show. We've got 100 humans. All right, guys, it was a long walk to work today across snow-capped mountains and through river valleys. And on that walk, I encountered 100 humans and I asked them all a question. Today's question was, name an odor. Name an odor that is so distinct, you know right away what it is. Name an odor that is so distinct, you know right away what it is. Nombra un olor tan característico que sabrás enseguida de qué se trata. Woo! All right, here we go. So name an odor. All right, how are you doing, Nuria Tam? Welcome. Nuria Tam. It's awesome to have you. All right, we get some good answers in the chat. Momabo kicking us off today. She says, perfume. Is perfume there? Momabo, it's a great answer, but it's not there. The 100 humans. They're so dumb, aren't they? Okay, let's see. Onions, says the bridge. Cebollas. Onions. Is onions there? No, it's not. Chocolate, says Nuria Tam. Chocolate. Is chocolate there? Cut grass. You have a name for the smell of freshly cut grass, I believe. Oh, no. That's a lie. Spaniards have a word for the smell after the rain. I can't remember what it is, but it's beautiful. Is cut grass there? No, it's not. Oh. Elves. You're going to get more torture tonight. No, it's not. Con says blood. Is blood there? No. Jeez, guys. I'm going to have to give you some clues. I don't know what patchouli is. What's patchouli? Am I saying something rude? Are you guys catching me in my ignorance saying rude things? What's patchouli? Okay, garlic. Is garlic there? It's a great answer, but it's not. The number one answer is a drug, my friends. Sadly, Gandalf, it's not cannabis. But it is a drug. It's a drug that probably all of us in this chat use every single day. Woo. What do you think it is? Let me go through some of... Nuria Tam says alcohol. I got a good idea. She's right now, she's downing a bottle of gin. Is it alcohol? No, it's not. But Crystal and the Bridge and Min all say coffee. Is coffee there? Yes, it is. Well done, guys. We're off the board with coffee, and friends, it's the number one answer. There you go. Now we're off the board. Let's go back to this. Okay. So we had garlic, a candle that has been extinguished, a rotting corpse, says Friday Corner. It got dark real quick. None of those are there, guys. None of those are there, but good answers. Crystal says gasoline or gasoline, petrol, petróleo in Spanish. Is it there? Yes, it is. Well done. It's the 6th most popular answer, with 8 of 100 humans saying gasoline. All right. Conman says sewage. Gandalf says cannabis. A burning tire, says Con, or fumes from a car. None of those are there. It's the hippie smell, says Crystal. Patchouli. I had no idea. You get a nivelazo.
Será posible. Vaya nivelazo.
Okay. All right, let's continue. I don't like the smell. I don't like coffee. Too bitter, says Friday Con. Oh my God. Coffee saves lives, man. Iced latte is fine, though. All right. Crystal says cow poo. Cow poop. Is cow poo there? I'm going to give it to you. Yes, it is. You were quite specific. Poop is there. Poop. The baby way to say poop. Cow poop, poop is there. It's the 4th most popular answer, with 13 of the 100 humans saying poop. All right, let's continue. I'm going to pause the timer, guys. This show's going to run way too long. Let's see. Pine or evergreen? Pine or evergreen? Is it there? No, it's not. Oh, God. Elves. Thank you. All right, you guys, so far you've gotten coffee, poop, and gasoline. Sounds like a pie. All right. Body odor, says Con. Body odor. Is body odor there? Yes, it is, Con. Well done, sir. Well done. 7 of 100 humans said that one. It's in 7th place. Now you only have 3 to get, my friend. Actually, I read this one in the chat. Min said lavender. Is lavender there? Yes, it is. Well done. Thank God for you, Min. I had no idea I was going to give a clue about that. Lavender is there. It's the 5th most popular answer, with 10 of 100 humans saying lavender. God bless you. All right, 2 answers to go. Just to wrap up what's in the chat: cinnamon, urine, wet dog, and licorice. None of them are there. So, God. None of them are there. Okay, let me give you a clue. This is a smell that you will smell in a supermarket. They purposely put this smell by the door to encourage you to buy this. Ooh, Nuriatam has an answer. Nuriatam has an answer. She says bread. Or let's say freshly baked bread. Is it there? Yes, it is. And finally, the last answer is it's a superfood, I think. It's definitely at the top of the food pyramid. It smells delicious. Unless, you're a vegan, then you might say no. Crystal, I'm sorry for this. Crystal in the chat is a vegan. It's a foodstuff. It is a meat, yes. But we have a name for it. It's a breakfast food. I've seen meat, steak, hamburger. God, you guys are making me hungry. Pizza. The name of a breakfast food that smells out of this world. Congratulations to Ravdos, Momabo, and Conman, who all say bacon. Well done. All right, let's go through the list, my friends. Okay, I asked 100 humans to name an odor so distinct you know it right away. In position number 7, we had body odor. Very distinctive smell. In position number 6, we had gasoline or petrol, as we would call it in the UK. In position number 5, we had lavender. A very a beautiful smell, I think. In position number 4, we had poop. Cow poop, says Crystal. Poop, it'll do. In position number 3, we had bacon. Come on, guys. Unmistakable as well, right? In position number 2, with 18 of 100 humans, we had freshly baked bread. And finally, in position number 1, with 22 of 100 humans, congratulations, guys, it was coffee. All right, we're going to have to go really quickly and do just one, sadly, complete the news.
Complete the news.
Okay, tomorrow morning I will be back on the radio and I will do the piece of news that we're missing, so don't worry. Okay, here we go. We're going to go to Texas, my friends. We're going to Texas. And we're going to look at a church. A church in Texas. So this Texas church will use blank this week. But what is it? This Texas church will use blank this week. Esta iglesia de Texas, or Texas, I think you'd say, utilizará, wow, that's a difficult word for an English mouth, blank esta semana. But what is it? Is it A, drones for contactless communion? Is it a drone to deliver the body and blood of Christ? Is it a drone? Is it B, an AI-generated sermon? Is it B, an AI-generated sermon? Or is it C, a robot priest? So, this Texas church will use blank this week. Is it A, drones for contactless communion? Is it B, an AI-generated sermon, un sermón generado por IA? Or is it C, a robot priest? A, B, or C? Conseil, I'm calling it now C. He didn't even know what it was. I admire his confidence. Ooh, wow, is it a three-way tie? We've got, yeah, it's a three-way tie. Is there going to be a tiebreaker? Interesting. So a Texas church is going to use AI-generated sermon. Okay, it's a three-way tie. I'm going to call this a win. All right. So a few of you said A, a few of you said B, and a few of you said C. Shall we see what the correct answer is, friends? Let's do it. All right. Oh, we have a winner. Oh, we have a tie now between A and B. All right. Is it drones for contactless communion or an AI-generated sermon? Let's find out. So this Texas church will use... The answer was B, an AI-generated sermon. Well done, Mama Bo, Ravdos, Aram is the unrestrained. Jeez, that username was a mouthful, but thanks for being here, my dude. All right, so let's get into this news coming to you from mysanantonio.com. Violet Crown City Church in Austin is set to debut an AI-generated sermon, stirring both intrigue and skepticism. Pastor Jay Cooper emphasized that this was a one-time experiment and not a move towards AI-driven church. There you go. Guys, all the news and things that I post will appear on my Patreon. If you want to support me and all the work that I do, you can find all the news that I use there with a brief summary of what we've spoken about. Oh my God, guys. What an epic show. Gone way over time. In the range of 20 minutes. Thank God this isn't on the radio, right? Guys, look, I appreciate you so much. There is an infinite number of things you could have been doing today. But instead of doing those things, you took the time to spend some time with me, and it means the absolute world. See you next time.